We're here at Radio Days in Lausanne in Switzerland, and I've got Cilla Benkö, who is the MD of Swedish Radio, and we've got Bob Shennan back from the BBC, Director of Radio. Welcome back to Radio Days, 10th anniversary. You were talking about the future of radio, the challenges. Tell me a little bit about that, Cilla.
Well, I think all admitted that we have a great future in front of us, but we have to reinvent ourselves. I mean, it's an audio boom, at least in Sweden, and I think also in Great Britain. I mean, audio is really the new black gold. People have realized that the real benefit of audio in the world of video, but that doesn't mean that we can just sit there and be relaxed and think everything we do is great. We still have to find very new formats, both for linear radio, but also for the digital and the social. And we have to come much, much closer to our audience, really understand what they need and how do we serve them best. The right content at the right time, at the right platform for the right people.
Cilla, we met this time last year in Austria at Radio Days, so what has changed in Sweden and radio in the last year? Are there new challenges? Is there anything particular going on at the moment?
Well, it really took off. I mean, a year ago it was still a bit defensive when it comes to audio. I think now people working in audio see that this is the thing in Sweden. Everybody's talking about smart speakers, voice control, podcasts. I mean, this is really, really something that's in the center of attention now in Sweden that it didn't used to be before. I mean, take Sweden for instance. It's the strongest, largest podcast country per capita, stronger than the UK and stronger than the US. So I mean, in Sweden also we have a boom of audiobooks where, you know, they ask authors to not only write or take an old book and make it as an audiobook, they ask authors to actually write for the ear. So a lot of these things have taken off over the last year.
Is that boom in podcasting coming from the commercial side or from the public service broadcaster?
Well, it's definitely driven by us. I mean, the biggest podcast by far in Sweden is something called Peter Documentary. It has 500,000 listeners every new episode. It's released every second week. It's hardcore documentary for people in their 20s. So, I mean, we sort of set the ground for listening on demand, and we see a booming market also from the commercials coming, and that's good for us because that also makes us on our toes. We have to once again find the new formats, do reinvention, and really try to struggle to get ends to meet. Not lose the ones that we already have. I mean, linear radio is still extremely strong in Sweden, but also position ourselves very clearly there in a world of much higher competition in the smartphone where you really have to be chosen.
And Bob, another one of the heavy hitters every year here at Radio Days from the BBC. It's been an exciting year for you with the BBC Sounds as well, hasn't it?
I guess that's been the big thing since last year when we talked about it, but this time we can say we're doing it. We launched BBC Sounds in November. It's the destination for all the BBC's linear radio, local network radio, plus a music mix offer and podcasts, and we're seeing growth in the take-up of BBC Sounds. We need to have a place where we can offer audiences who aren't necessarily coming to linear radio a place to find it and a place to find great on-demand content at the same time. So it's a big, important strategic play for the BBC. But like Cilla says, I think you've got to see it in proportion. It's all about striking a balance. We need these days to do more than ever before to serve audiences. It doesn't mean we need to do less of one thing. It means we need to add to the overall offer of linear radio some really great new on-demand functionality to make all our content go further and reach more people.
I was talking to Alison a while ago, and she was talking about why they came up with the concept for BBC Sounds. Because you had the BBC iPlayer, you still have it, and that was a home for all of the radio services, I think local as well as national and the BBC World Service. So what is uniquely different, do you think, about Sounds? Apart from the aesthetics and the look of it, it looks slicker. But why is it so much more popular now?
It looks very different, but it is still a work in progress. I mean, we've only been going for, 4 months, 4 or 5 months with BBC Sounds, and the intention is that it becomes a brilliantly personalized service, so that for each one of us, if we log in to the app, we receive a version of the BBC that is absolutely perfectly tailored to our tastes, needs, interests, habits. Now that functionality will take a while to really roll through. It's starting now to capture people's imagination. We're starting to see content recommended where before it wasn't. and where it isn't in the iPlayer Radio app. Plus, it's a major commitment to music and to podcasts that we've not really done before in iPlayer Radio, which is really, to be honest, about another way of finding linear radio. Now, that's still incredibly important in BBC Sounds, because BBC Sounds is for everyone. But we do want BBC Sounds to be particularly attractive to younger audiences who aren't necessarily going to come in to iPlayer Radio for linear radio.
It's exciting to see how it's going to develop and grow, and because this is the 10th anniversary, in one word, what do you think of Radio Days Europe, 10 years on?
Spectacular.
And you, Bob?
Important.
Important and spectacular. Well, Bob Shennan from the BBC, Cilla Benkö from Swedish Radio, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your time in Switzerland.
Thank you.
Thank you.